At 60, I discovered the heartbreaking truth about my soul's transformation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The day I found the old box in the attic, hidden beneath warped floorboards. Its presence was mysterious, almost haunting. My hands trembled as I pried it open, dust swirling in the dim light. Inside lay letters, photos, memories, fragments of a life I barely recognized. There, amidst the yellowed pages, lay a letter addressed to me. The ink was faded, the script shaky and unfamiliar. My heart raced painfully. Who had written this? A friend? A lover? I could barely breathe. It felt like the letters themselves were alive, whispering secrets about a person I had forgotten, or perhaps never truly known. That my family had been my rock, my husband, John, with his gentle smile and warm embrace, my children, their laughter echoing like sweet music. But as I read on, a dark shadow loomed over my memories. Each word pulled me deeper into a chasm of doubt. What if everything I believed about my life was a lie? What if my transformation wasn't just a metaphor but a truth I couldn't face? My hands shook as I lifted a photo of a younger me, surrounded by strangers. They looked happy, carefree. But the more I stared, the more I felt the silence pressing in. The air grew thick, suffocating, as pieces of a forgotten past clawed their way back. Each sentence pulled me deeper into confusion. I saw my younger self, her eyes bright with hope, but what had she known that I didn't? The clock ticked loudly, a reminder of time slipping away. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Then I spotted a name in the corner of one of the photos. A name I had never seen before. My heartbeat quickened, panic rising. Who was this person? Did they hold the key to my transformation? Just as I prepared to dive deeper, a crash from downstairs jolted me from my thoughts. I froze, unsure if I should investigate. My heart pounded against my chest, fear coiling in my stomach. What if the truth was closer than I thought? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I hesitated for what felt like an eternity, my heart racing as I weighed the decision to remain hidden in the attic or confront whatever chaos awaited below. The heavy air felt suffocating, thumbing through my memories, mixing confusion with fear. I set the photo down and crept towards the stairway, every creak of the wooden steps echoing like an alarm, reminding me that the world outside the safety of the attic was still spinning, unaware of the storm unfolding within me. When I reached the bottom, I was met not by the expected chaos but a curious quiet. The house felt like a different space than the one I had left just moments before. The light flaring through the windows offered an odd comfort, and as I ventured into the living room, it was there that I encountered my daughter, Lucy. She sat on the floor, tears illuminating her cheeks, an old scrapbook sprawled open before her, its pages littered with memories of days spent together that I now realized I might have taken for granted. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to scare you. I thought I lost something important." I knelt beside her, the nearby letters and photographs momentarily forgotten. "Lucy, what happened?" She pointed toward the page she had been poring over, revealing pictures of us during her childhood happier times, my smiles broader, free from the burdens that now plagued me. "I found this letter tucked inside here. It's for you." I took the letter from her small hands, the ink still fresh and inviting in a way that felt so starkly different from the other letters hidden in the attic. It was one of those rare forms of intimacy that existed between a mother and daughter, a piece of her heart reaching out to me. "Can you read it?" she asked, her voice wavering between excitement and uncertainty. As I unfolded it, the familiar scrawl wrapped around me, and I was caught between gratitude and sadness. The words spilled gratitude for my love and expressed pride in my strength. "You're the best mom in the world," Lucy had written. "Thank you for always being there, even when it feels hard." Tears streamed down my face, a sharp contrast to the unanswered questions that still clawed at my mind. I could feel Lucy's gaze, a mix of admiration and concern. My breath hitched, overwhelmed by emotions swirling like leaves in the wind. Had I ever considered the weight of my transformation on those around me? "Mom, what are you thinking?" she asked softly, a question that rumbled within me like thunder. I held her gaze, longing to confide in her, to unveil the tangled knots of my heart, but fear coiled tightly around my thoughts. What if my burdens confused her further, just as they had me? But Lucy reached out, her hand resting on mine, a grounding warmth. "I am scared too," she admitted, her voice breaking. I thought I had lost you when you started acting different, when you got distant." The truth in her words struck me like lightning. I took a deep breath, the realization that my family had been feeling the weight of my transformation too. It wasn't just my struggle. It was ours. "I'm right here," I whispered, an affirmation that I desperately needed to hear myself. I pulled her close, every heartbeat echoing with urgency. We clung to one another amidst a storm of unspooled memories and uncertain futures, but just as hope began to bloom in the quiet corners of my heart, the ringing of my phone shattered the stillness, slicing through the delicate moment between us. Among the deluge of thoughts racing through my mind, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but a strange instinct urged me to answer. "Hello?" I said, my voice shaky. A pause lingered on the line before a familiar voice broke the silence. "Is this Marissa?" "I'm calling about the box." The letters, the words hung in the air like an accusation, dragging forth memories I couldn't yet dissect. Everything I had discovered was about to become more convoluted. My pulse quickened and dread crept back in with a chilling whisper. "Yes?" I managed to reply, stomach twisting, feeling as if I stood on the precipice of something monumental. "I think you should know," the voice continued, "you're not the only one looking for answers." The words spun around in my head like a whirlwind, trapping me in a cyclone of confusion and dread. Each syllable felt as heavy as a stone, sinking deep into my chest. The voice on the line continued, oblivious to the chaos it was igniting. "Your mother, she had a past, and it may affect you more than you know. My mother's past." This was a story I had never considered, neatly tucked away in the boxes of reminiscence that filled our attic, boxes I had shunned until now, assuming they held only the burdens of grief. What could possibly lie in those letters, secrets so potent they could redefine my understanding of family? "What do you mean?" I managed to croak out, eyes darting to Lucy, who still nestled close, sensing the tension in my voice. "There are things about her life you don't know, things that touched you before you even took your first breath," the caller said. "Trust me, it's not just about your struggles now. It's about something deeper." "Who are you?" I demanded, grip tightening on the phone, anger bubbling against the raw fear. The calm disembodied voice seemed to remain unfazed by my tumult. "Why are you telling me this? What do you want?" "I'm just a messenger, Marissa. But I think it's vital for you to uncover this before it's too late." My fingers trembled as I hung up, a surreal silence overtaking the room. I turned to Lucy, still glued to my side, worry tracing her features. "Mom, who was that?" she asked, chestnut eyes wide with concern. I felt the walls closing in. I hadn't wanted to burden her further, I had only just begun to share the weight of my own turmoil. Desperately needed to shield her from the truth, yet the enormity of the unknown threatened to swallow me whole. "Just an old friend," I managed to say, not wishing to forge a path of fear with threads of uncertainty. "Are you okay?" she pressed, sensing the fissure in my facade. I pulled her closer, the warmth of her small body igniting a flicker of hope. "Let's go for a walk," I suggested, needing air and space to wrestle with this new revelation. The familiar setting of our neighborhood squished into the burgeoning panic crawling inside me. If my mother had secrets dark and profound, how could I ever be a guiding light for Lucy? Moments later, the gentle breeze accompanied our steps, a balm I desperately needed. I noticed flowers blooming along the sidewalk, vibrant petals stretching toward the sky. Their beauty was ironic amidst my internal tempest. Lucy began picking the blooms, weaving a small crown for herself, giggling softly as she placed it atop her head. "Look, Mom!" she exclaimed, joy breathing life into the moment, a stark contrast to the growing shadows whispering in the corners of my mind. "Beautiful, just like you," I smiled, knowing the tiniest moments of light could be enough to anchor us. With every flower she picked, I felt a small tether to something hopeful, a connection to life beyond our struggles. We stopped at the park. Lucy ran ahead to the swings, and I sat on a bench, grateful for the distraction but haunted by the conversation I had just had. My mother's past was a puzzle whose pieces I didn't possess, and the fear of what it could reveal throbbed within. Voices nearby broke my reverie. A group of mothers laughed and chatted, their children squealing joyfully, a stark reminder of the normalcy I once took for granted. I watched a woman share a subtle, reassuring glance with her son, who raced toward her with a proud smile. It gnawed at me, this desperate longing to connect with Lucy in the same carefree manner, but I was ensnared, trapped in a cycle of doubt, the shadow of my own transformation looming large. Would I be able to sort through the chaos of my mother's past and still be the anchor Lucy needed? The worry weighed heavily, like a shroud, wrapping around me tighter with every passing moment. "I am coming, Mom," Lucy called, breaking through my thoughts as she dashed towards me, a mixture of dirt and laughter painting her cheeks like a masterpiece. "Do you want to swing?" she asked innocently, her eyes bright with excitement. I was a hair's breadth away from saying no, consumed by existential dread, but then I remembered the letter, the raw love she had expressed. "Of course, sweetheart," I answered, making my way over, feeling foolish for drifting away when my daughter radiated such joy. As she swung high, squealing with delight, I could almost convince myself that hope could coexist with anxiety. But then again, just as I relished the warmth of her laughter, my thoughts collided with the gnawing uncertainty of my mother's secrets. And as I watched Lucy soar further into the air, my heart simultaneously ached and lifted. I realized it would take more than courage to sift through the burdens left behind. It would require resiliency, a quality I desperately hoped I could rediscover within myself. Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket, echoing with urgency once more. But this time, as I reached for it, dread settled back in like an unwelcome guest. With a glance toward Lucy, joyfully unaware and wholly innocent, I hesitated. The choice was mine to make, to face whatever awaited me on the other end, or to let the tide continue to carry me, a bit longer, toward the inevitable reveal of truths that threatened to upend everything I thought I knew. The phone slipped from my grip, back into the abyss of my pocket. The silence was deceptive, it concealed an impending storm. I focused on Lucy, the contagious laughter spilling from her lips each time she soared higher. "Mom, look at me!" she cried, and suddenly, her joy felt like a lifeline. I couldn't let the fear of the unknown snatch that away. "You're doing amazing," I called back, my voice tinted with pride. I forced myself to breathe in the laughter and the sun-drenched moments unfolding before me, trying to drown out the impending sense of doom creeping back in. It was just a phone call, I reminded myself. Just words strung together by someone I didn't know. But even as I clasped onto that thought, the persistent gnawing at my heart reminded me that ignorance never solved anything, it only delayed the inevitable. Lucy finally scampered over, her cheeks flushed with happiness. "Can we get ice cream next?" Her face radiated sheer hope, a stark contrast to my spiraling inner turmoil. "Of course," I replied, willing a smile across my face, knowing that escapism was a temporary salve. With her delicate hand wrapped in mine, we walked towards the nearby ice cream parlor, each step forward echoing the fears I was struggling to face. As we approached the shop, Lucy gasped. "Look, Mom!" She tugged at my arm, directing my gaze toward a window displaying cones of colors that would match a sunset. I smiled genuinely, entranced by her excitement. "I want the rainbow one." "Rainbow it is," I agreed, but as the server scooped the vibrant swirls into a cone, the joyful colors began to blur alongside the anxiety jostling in my mind. "Here you go," the server said cheerfully, placing the finished masterpiece into Lucy's hands. As she took a massive bite, her eyes lit up with delight, sending my heart into a struggling dance between happiness and despair. I needed to be their pillar, I needed to be strong for both of us, but to do that, I first needed to understand what was hidden in those boxes up in the attic. The sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the world in soft golden light as we found a small table outside. Lucy was lost in her ice cream, a captivating sight. She'd never fail to remind me of the joys of youth, the wonders that made life feel limitless. Yet, as I watched her, a storm brewed in my heart, the chilling uncertainty about who I really was, not just as her mother but as my own woman whose history was tangled with the very woman I'd lost. Suddenly, a voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. "Excuse me?" A woman stood before me, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, eyes softened with concern. "I couldn't help but notice your daughter. She seems so happy." "You're doing a wonderful job with her." "Thank you," I replied, a flicker of warmth igniting my heart. It was an unexpected kindness in a world that often felt cold and judgmental. "I've been there," the woman continued, her voice a soothing melody. "Kids only see love and joy, they don't understand the burdens we carry. Cherish these moments. They're like fireflies in a jar, we want them to thrive, even in the dark." Something about her choice of words resonated deeply, reigniting my determination. "Thank you. It's been a difficult time, but I'm trying," I admitted, my voice breaking almost too easily. She smiled kindly. "Just remember, no matter the shadows from the past, the light you create now can still illuminate all that lies ahead." Her warmth washed over me like a freshly fallen rain, igniting hope where guilt and anxiety had formed a stronghold. We shared a moment of understanding, two souls connected through the unseen burdens we both carried. But as she walked away, a sense of finality resonated with me. Just as I began to believe I might find a way to navigate through the chaos, my phone buzzed once more. A chill surged through my spine. "Mommy, who is that?" Lucy said, her innocent question jolting me back to the present. I realized my daughter, my beacon of hope, was staring with wide eyes. "It's just someone from earlier," I replied, my voice faltering. "Nothing to worry about, sweetheart." But deep down, I knew the implications of what that phone call could mean. In that moment, standing by the little table, a realization drummed into me. Mother's past was winking in and out of shadows, beckoning me to unlock the door to her secrets. I clutched the phone tightly, feeling it pulsate, a heartbeat much like my own. Would I have the courage, or would I let the fear drive me further from understanding? Lucy's laughter rang through the air, becoming muddled as the buzzing phone belied the calm of the day. I should have answered. I should have opened that door, but instead, the weight of possible revelations pressed against my chest. "Mom, what's wrong?" Lucy asked, innocence gracing her tone. And in her eyes, something shifted, questions forming like ripe fruit. Nothing made sense as I turned my back to the buzzing phone, to the whispers of my mother's secrets. "Just let's enjoy this moment," I managed to say, but even as I spoke, the promise of what awaited on the other side gripped tightly. The names and narratives of the past loomed ever closer, and though I fought so desperately to pause it all, the tides were shifting. What waited on that unknown call? And just how deep did my mother's secrets run? As the golden rays began to dim, an unsettling clarity washed over me. I had to find the answers before they found me. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the pavement, each one a reminder of the weight I was carrying. I watched Lucy devour her ice cream, the rainbow colors staining her fingers and chin, a perfect portrait of blissful innocence. Yet, as I observed her vibrant existence, I was aware of the tumult beneath the surface. The colors of her delight clashed with the dark hues of my uncertainty. "Mom," she called out, her mouth half full, "can I have sprinkles on my next one?" The simplicity of her request pierced through the fog, and I found myself chuckling softly. "Only if you promise to share," I teased, leaning close enough to see the way her eyes sparkled when she smiled. We exchanged a moment of laughter, but before the warmth could fully settle, the phone buzzed again, a stark reminder of the storm brewing just beyond our joy. I glanced around, as if expecting someone to leap from the shadows, yet only Lucy remained a gentle beacon, blissfully unaware of the tempest that loomed. "How about a little walk?" I suggested, crushing the tension in my chest as I took her sticky hand. "Let's explore the park before going home." The park was a sanctuary of laughter, the kind where families strolled with ice cream in hand, where little feet chased bubbles into the sky. Yet, the scene felt surreal, as though it stood in stark contrast to the chaos swirling inside me. "Look, Mom!" Lucy exclaimed, darting towards a cluster of children flying kites, her laughter echoing like a precious melody. Watching her run, I felt that familiar nudging, a yearning to leap into that joy with her, but each time I stepped closer, the telephone in my pocket vibrated anew, urging me to confront the unseen call. "Lucy! What's your favorite color?" I shouted, desperate to spark a dialogue that might distract us from the impending shadows. "Purple." "No, green." "Wait, can it be both?" She giggled, twirling around as if trying to catch her own shadow. "Definitely both." I agreed, feeling warmth seep back into the corners of my heart as she launched herself into play with a child whose kite danced wildly in the air, their laughter intertwining effortlessly, but darkness was close. The urgency from my pocket echoed like a siren, and as I stood watching Lucy, a voice whispered from the depths of my memory, reminding me of secrets better left unturned. My mother's face flittered like shadows caught between light and dusk. What had she left behind? The urge to uncover her truths gnawed relentlessly. As we paused to watch her new friends run, I noticed a familiar figure emerging from the path ahead. It was the woman from the ice cream shop, her eyes filled with the quiet strength I'd felt earlier. She approached us, her smile warm and genuine. "Mind if I join you?" she asked casually. "I find parks like this have a special magic. Of course." I gestured, grateful for the distraction from my internal storm. We exchanged pleasantries, but a question itched at the back of my mind: what had compelled her to return? "Your daughter is a treasure," she said, her eyes reflecting my daughter's laughter. "It reminds me of how precious childhood is, how frayed life can get. I often think of how we hide our pain from the ones we love." Her words pulled at a chord within me, a resonance I couldn't ignore. "How do you manage it?" I found myself asking, drawn to her vulnerability. "The burden of hidden truths," she hesitated, her gaze shifting to the swirling patterns of the sunset, allowing the silence to cradle the weight of her thoughts. "I don't. I simply endure. Some shadows refuse to leave, and I've found that sharing my truth only brings warmth when I light my path ahead." I swallowed hard, a lump forming in my throat. "What if sharing it shatters everything you love?" The woman looked at me, and in her steady gaze, I felt an understanding deeper than words, a connection woven through the fabric of shared experience. "Then it might just be a necessary shattering. Sometimes, we have to break apart to build anew." The depth of her wisdom shook me, and I felt the tidal wave of fear draw nearer. So many unspoken words clung to my throat, stuck amid a whirlwind of unreadiness. I forced a smile, trying to return to the light of the present. "Thanks for that," I murmured, somehow feeling both lighter and weighted down. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed again, and the vibration was sharper this time, almost insistent. I turned away, desperate to retreat from that portentous sound, when Lucy darted back, her hands a burst of colorful confetti, her face radiant. "Mom! The sky looks like a giant painting. Can we stay longer?" she begged, her voice ringing with pure hope that made my heart ache with the gravity of what was at stake. "Just a few more minutes, sweetheart," I responded softly, torn between her innocent wishes and the unexpected storm rolling in on my thoughts. I knew that the answers I sought were nothing more than a heartbeat away. As I gazed at the sunset bleeding into deep crimson and ochre, the realization of my mother's legacy loomed even larger, a shadow pressing down on this moment. How many times had I allowed fear to dictate my choices? And how long could I keep pretending everything was all right when the truth hung in the balance like the sunset meeting the horizon, Mom? Lucy's voice jolted me back. You're thinking again. What are you thinking about? The simple question ground me, but as I looked into my daughter's earnest eyes, I felt myself teetering on the edge of a precipice. Just something important. Promise me you'll always share your heart, okay? Okay. I promise. She replied, beaming with unwavering trust, but as I turned back to the woman, who now lingered a few steps away, the finality in her expression made my heart plummet. I had done nothing but delay, the truth was not waiting for me. It demanded to be faced. Am I strong enough to handle this? I wondered as my fingers clutched the phone tightly. I could feel the weight of the secret pressing against me like the twilight sinking into darkness, and I knew that soon, I would have to confront what lay beyond the shadows and the very last vestiges of my mother's past, and with that thought gnawing at my heart, the phone buzzed one final time, as if issuing a challenge or perhaps an invitation. This time I could no longer ignore it. What awaited me on the other end? The chaotic beauty of the park dimmed as twilight crept closer, wrapping the world in soft mauves and deep blues. I felt the weight of the phone like a tight grip on my heart, each pulse of vibration promising answers I had long avoided. Lucy's laughter began to fade into the background, replaced by the thrumming sound of anxiety in my chest. I could no longer dance in this space of distraction. The truth was demanding my attention. Please stay, Lucy chirped between her eagerness to run and relish her fleeting moments of freedom. But the warmth of the sun's goodbye was almost eclipsed by the chilling reality of what awaited. The woman from the ice cream shop lingered at the edge of my consciousness, her unwavering gaze a silent encouragement to confront what lay ahead. Maybe she saw the cracks in my facade that I had tried so desperately to conceal. I exchanged one last glance with her, something deep tugging at my soul though unspoken understanding that craved connection beyond this moment. What's wrong, Mom? Lucy's innocent inquiry interrupted my spiraling thoughts. Her tiny hand reached for mine, her grip a lifeline against the maelstrom within me. I squatted down to her level, forcing calm into my voice. Honey, how about we get some more ice cream before heading home? You promised me sprinkles. Her face lit up like a firework against the night sky, but I could see the worry swimming behind her eyes. You're still thinking about the broken stuff, aren't you? The truth in her remark broke through the fog, and I wanted nothing more than to wrap my arms around her and shield her from the burdens that pressed against me. Some things need to be fixed, but it's okay. Some days it feels heavier. That's all. Then let's chase the heaviness away. She exclaimed, pulling my hand towards the ice cream stand, her spirit an unyielding balm to my looming dread. I glanced back at the woman, and to my surprise, she followed, a quiet witness to this family moment against my uncertain backdrop. As we approached the stand, I felt the walls of my heart inch closer, the sweetness of Lucy's laughter the only contrast to my inner turmoil. I allowed my attention to drift to the bright menu. 2 scoops of ice cream, 1 with sprinkles. I ordered, hoping to drown my feelings in sugary bliss alongside my child. As Lucy eagerly took her cone treasure, a quick jolt of amusement swept through my heart when she attempted to replicate the fancy way the vendor had squished the sprinkles on top. The laughter bubbled up unbidden, each giggle a small victory against the weight I carried. But soon, that laughter faded into silence as I felt the persistent buzz of my phone demonically echo through my thoughts. Should we sit for a moment? The woman suggested, addressing Lucy who was currently engaged in a slight tug-of-war with her ice cream, which was rebels from the cone, dripping down her careless fingers. Yes. Over there. Lucy pointed to a bench nearby, the perfect spot framed by the sparkle of twinkling lights coming from the far corner of the park. As we settled into our seats, the weight of the universe seemed to pause just a beat, granting me a momentary reprieve from the chaos that continuously swirled in my mind. The woman shared a warm smile with Lucy, and I wondered how much of her heart she laid bare to this stranger who felt familiar amidst all this strangeness. Sometimes, when I have to face something hard, I like to imagine it as a story, she began, breaking my impending silence. Think of the characters within, how they navigate their joys and sorrows. What if your heart was a brave hero today? The strange notion of valor in vulnerability was something I had unconsciously buried deep, and I felt a flicker of inspiration ignite within me. This was not merely an interaction, it was a reminder that strength could be found in opening up, in confronting the things that kept us captive. Yet, fear clawed back, and the last remnants of my hesitance still loomed heavily. Lucy, with her hands now adorned in a rainbow of melted ice cream, chimed in, "Mom, can you be the hero?" The innocent faith in her voice was both a lifeline and a heavy burden, one I felt incapable of bearing. "I'll try, my love. We all have a part to play, right?" Outside the sanctuary of our moment, the world moved on, gathering shadows and stories, but here, beneath the light strung across the branches, I dared to dream of spinning truth into hope instead of despair, and just as the warmth of that thought began to wrap around my heart, my phone vibrated again, buzzing with the urgency that felt more like an impending storm than an answered question. Curiosity edged forward, mingling with dread. I glanced down at the screen and saw a name that sent my pulse racing, a name I hadn't spoken in years, a name that threatened to knock down the fragile walls I had built around my heart. "Mom, are you going to answer?" Lucy's voice tore me away from the abyss I had been teetering over. I looked at her, still oblivious to the storm, and back to the phone, the looming question that came with it tinged with both desperation and allure. "Not yet, sweet pea," I whispered, the uncertainty tangling with the hope that perhaps today's broken pieces could slowly begin to mend. But as I felt the tremor of sustained courage blushing against the unsettling unknown, one reality imploded against those dreams. What if answering it pulled me into a darker truth I wasn't ready to confront? As Lucy continued to blissfully indulge in her ice cream, I glanced back at the woman who appeared to hold a thrill of understanding in her eyes. Would her next words hint at the sagging weight of circumstance? Or would they be further laden with revelation? "Sometimes," she said softly, "it's the answers we fear that become the bridges to healing," and with that, the storm loomed closer, ready to pounce. The chilled remnants of sweet cream lingered on Lucy's cheeks, her happiness a vivid contrast to the tempest brewing inside me. I felt like a spectator in my own life, watching my daughter bask in the innocence of childhood while I wrestled with a heaviness that threatened to smother me. "Can I tell you a secret, Lucy?" I asked, feeling the weight of the invisible chains I had forged throughout all the years. My voice quavered slightly, echoing the uncertainty that had gripped me since the moment my phone buzzed. She tilted her head, her eyes wide with curiosity and innocent yearning for an adventure. "Yes," she declared, her ice cream momentarily forgotten that I took a deep breath, letting her gaze ground me. "Sometimes, adults have hard things to face, and we get scared. But it's okay to feel scared. It's just part of the journey." A thoughtful nod from Lucy as she processed my words, her tiny fingers absent-mindedly playing with the melting ice cream. "You're brave, Mommy. Just like the heroes in my storybooks." How desperately I wanted to wear that badge of bravery, to embody the strength she saw in me. But what if the truth meant exposing the cracks and flaws that I had worked so hard to conceal? As shadows began to deepen around us, the thrill of her unwavering belief mingled with my fear, a bittersweet cocktail in the depths of my heart. "Are you ready to take that call, Mom?" Lucy asked suddenly, breaking through my reverie. The phone lay heavy in my lap, its glow an ominous reminder of the weight it carried. I glanced at it and then at the woman, whose tranquil presence felt like an anchor in the storm. "What if it means reopening wounds?" I murmured, searching for reassurance. "Wounds don't always mean sorrow," she replied gently. "Sometimes they remind us how far we've come. They can usher in healing even when they feel like turmoil." Her words danced around my soul, sparking a flicker of courage I had almost forgotten existed. Lucy, undeterred by my internal battle, squeezed my hand. "Let's fight the dark together, Mom. You and me, heroes." The innocence of her proclamation felt electrifying, a small ember of hope flickered to life in the corners of my heart. I could almost believe we were to forge a new path through this uncertainty, stepping beyond what had long held me captive. As I picked up my phone, my heart raced. The name flashing across the screen was both a beacon and a warning. "Michael. The one person I had hidden from all these years, the one who had shattered my trust and left me clinging to my fragile sense of self. What if he has something important to say? Lucy asked, her voice a delicate whisper, laced with concern. To me, or to us? The question hung in the air, a fragile realization. Was this about more than confronting my past? Was I on the precipice of gathering the torn pieces of my family story, or was I standing idly as the ground beneath me cracked further, with Lucy's gaze steady upon me? A part of me longed to protect her from the ghosts I sensed beginning to seep through the cracks, an unsteady mix of fear and yearning. I swiped to answer, my voice catching in my throat just as the call connected. Hello? I spoke, aware of how the single word echoed with exaggerated finality. Is this you? The voice on the other end had changed, but the familiar lilt of concern and shadows lingered. Michael held the complexities of my past wrapped in every syllable. Eyes. It's me, I managed to reply, each word tasting bittersweet, like melted chocolate left in the sun. Can we talk? There are things we need to discuss. Things you need to hear. The tremor in his voice sent a chill down my spine, and the park around us dulled into a blurred backdrop, the laughter of children and distant music fading into an echo of my past. With my heart racing, the memories surged like tidal waves, remnants of laughter entwined with fear, moments of love marred by bitterness. Mom? Lucy's calm cut through my spiraling thoughts, her small hand reaching for my cheek. You look like you want to run away. As the weight of this moment descended heavily, I turned to Lucy, my heart heavy with the burdens of secrets that I had failed to shield her from. No, sweet pea, I'm not going anywhere. But I need to listen. With reluctance, I stepped into the old wounds, the fear of confronting my truths lingering in the air like a thick humidity. Would it seal my fate or lead me to the light? I'm here, I said into the phone, fully knowing that the answers I sought would come wrapped in the treachery of revisiting old ghosts. As I squeezed my daughter's hand, steeling myself for the weight of words I never wanted to hear, the conversation began to unfold, painful yet necessary. And at that moment, shadows began to creep over the park, a looming storm was beginning to gather overhead as uncertainty breathed life into a new chapter. Lucy, I whispered, drawing her closer, no matter what happens, we will face it together. You're my hero, and you always will be. But the dark truth hidden in the call was that this conversation might not just test my courage, it may unravel something deeper that I had buried, something that could shatter the fragile bond one so desperately sought to protect. With every word Michael spoke, I felt the ground shift beneath me, tension heavy in the air. I braced myself, knowing the revelation could either bridge or break us all. A new chapter loomed, cloaked in uncertainty and the promise of change. Would I emerge a hero, or would I find myself lost in the shadows? The world around me faded further as Michael's voice thickened the air with the scent of forgotten regrets. Lucy deserves to know the truth, too, he said, his tone pressing like a dark weight against my chest. The idea that secrets once meant to protect could now become burdens for my daughter left me gasping for breath. Through my neglect, she's already been a part of this story far longer than I realized, I whispered, barely audible even to myself. My thoughts raced back in spirals, twisting around remnants of old conversations, a lifetime of lies woven into the fabric of our past. Can we meet? Michael pressed, a hint of desperation in his voice. There are things you can't comprehend over the phone. My heart thudded painfully against my ribcage. You want to relive it? The words slipped out before I could catch them, sharp like shattered glass. What more could possibly be said after all these years? A long silence danced in the air, heavy and foreboding. I squeezed Lucy's hand tighter, seeking strength in her small presence, in the innocent warmth radiating from her. Would she still see me as the hero I had tried to paint myself as if she knew that beneath my skin lied uncertainties and fears? I've changed, Lucy, Michael finally said, his voice a mix of remorse and earnestness. And I need you to understand. Understand what? I interjected, fighting off the tears that threatened to emerge. That you chose to walk away? You left me alone to deal with the consequences of your decisions. What do you want, Michael? I want a chance to explain, he replied, his words a double-edged sword, cutting deep yet inviting an exploration of healing. Your silence has never meant I wasn't hoping for a conversation. In that moment, a nutshell of memories splintered through the corners of my mind, the love that had once filled our home, the laughter that soared through air before darkness encroached, the promises exchanged that faded under the weight of despair. Was this opening a door I long thought closed, or was it truly a chance for healing? Meet me, please. For Luce's sake, he implored. The plea tugged at my heartstrings, forging a connection to a time when love had seemed effortless. I could envision the possibilities of a reunion, of making sense of the chaos that had fragmented our lives. Yet, the hesitation bubbled at the surface, spiked with denial. What if the revelations slashed through the fibers of our lives, unraveling the fabric I'd sewn into something unrecognizable? Mom, please don't cry, Lucy said softly, her voice breaking through the storm within me. I glanced down at her, her innocent eyes wide with concern. It's okay if he wants to talk, that I swallowed hard, the gulf between my desires and fears growing larger. Are you brave enough to face him with me? My question tore into the silencia, voice of vulnerability breaking through the shields I had long constructed. Her face lit up as she nodded, face resolute. We fight darkness together, she proclaimed, lifting her chin defiantly. Like I said. Heroes, remember? The conviction in her spirit ignited a warmth within that pulled me closer to the brink of facing my fears. As much as I wanted to shield her, I realized that together, we had the power to create our own narrative, not one rooted in pain, but a story where we chose light even in the darkest of times. Okay, I'll meet you, I finally relented, the words resting heavily on my tongue. I could feel the fragile balance of my heart teetering, one side filled with trepidation and the other growing hopeful, unsteady yet emerging. But understand this, Michael, it's about Lucy now. She deserves the truth without any more shadows lurking to haunt us. Thank you. I promise, I'll do my best to honor that, he replied, though his voice was laced with an uncertainty that mirrored my own. I ended the call, a curtain dropping over my heart, the stage set for what would be a long-awaited confrontation. Can we go get ice cream now? Lucy asked sweetly, drawing my focus back to her, the light in her eyes unwavering. We just had ice cream, remember? I said, attempting a smile. Double scoop. She countered, her grin infectious. All right, double scoop it is, I replied, my heart swelling at the thought of how she always seemed to build bridges between despair and joy. As we walked hand in hand towards the ice cream stand, I felt a flicker of something old and buried deep, a whisper of hope curling around my heart amid the uncertainty. I could do this for her, I could step into the shadows, even when knowing the risks that loomed ahead would not be easy, and just as I reached for the handle of the ice cream stand's door, a sudden figure caught my eye, a woman out of place among the laughter and chaos of the park. Her gaze was locked onto mine, and in that instant, I could see something familiar in her eyes. A shiver ran down my spine as she took a step forward, her lips parting as if about to speak. Before I could process what was about to unfold, I felt Luce's hand slip from mine, and her excited squeals blended with my racing heart. The woman's presence drew all the warmth from the day, the world beyond fading as a new revelation shattered my moment of fragile clarity. As I stood there, stunned and breathless, I couldn't shake the feeling that the unexpected twist was intertwined with the past I thought I had left behind. In that instant, I knew without a doubt that the shadows would not fade quietly, they were here to stay, and this conversation was just the beginning of a deeper unraveling. The woman approached slowly, her movements deliberate, as if she carried the weight of years lost between us. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic rhythm that echoed the chaos swirling in my mind. Dust motes danced lazily in the shafts of sunlight slicing through the trees, but I felt none of this warmth. Instead, a chill crept up my spine. Rachel, she said, her voice a delicate tremor that laced through the air, causing the din of the park to fade into silence. It's me. I've come to find you. The name was a ghost that thrived in the corners of my memory, a shadow from the past that I had buried beneath layers of time. Rachel. My sister. The one I had lost, the one whose absence had echoed through my life like a gaping wound. I had convinced myself for so long that she was gone forever, swallowed by her own demons. Instead, here she was, looking very much alive and perhaps more vulnerable than I could comprehend. What are you doing here? I managed, my voice shaking, feeling the fragile threads of my newfound hope begin to fray, tangling with confusion and dread that I want to explain. Rachel said softly, her eyes glistening with something that looked painfully like regret. I've been trying to reach you for years. I didn't know where you were. Please, can we talk? I need you to understand that as Lucy's laughter faded into the background, the world blurred around me, the ice cream stand becoming nothing more than a distant memory. My thoughts spiraled. How could she have the audacity to show up now? After all those years? Just as I was struggling to piece together the remnants of my shattered family? Explain what? That you left? I retorted, the bitterness rising like bile in my throat. You broke us, Rachel. You were supposed to be the strong one. You had a choice. She flinched at my words, her brows knitting together in pain, and suddenly I was flooded with conflicting emotions. Was this anger justified, or was it a defense mechanism meant to shield me from the heartbreak of living in the past? I was sick, Rachel. I was battling demons you couldn't see, she whispered, her hands shaking as she reached towards me, her connection seemingly real but distant like the horizon at dusk. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought you were better off without me. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting me from what? I shot back, my voice rising. From the darkness you were fighting or the truth we both deserved? You left me to face everything alone. Lucy's voice cut in, tiny and worried, a bridge between my fury and the fragile exchange unfolding. Mom, are you okay? Her innocence pierced through the heavy tension that enveloped us, and suddenly I realized that I was unspooling in front of the very child I had promised to be strong for. That I turned to Lucy, and the momentary facade of bitterness fell away, leaving me vulnerable and raw. My heart grieved for her childhood innocence, for the burdens I had wrapped around her tiny shoulders. I'm okay, sweetheart, I said, though my voice wobbled. Just talking to someone from my past. Slowly, I turned back to Rachel, taking note of the lines etched deep into her skin worn by years of regrets, struggles, and perhaps even survival. I was wrong to disappear. I thought I could spare you the pain of my mistakes, she said, the anguish in her eyes cutting through me. But it seems I merely exchanged your suffering for mine. A shiver danced down my spine as her words resonated with the very essence of our shared history. Could I possibly find sympathy for her anguish when I felt so shackled by my own? I don't want to hear your excuses, I replied, less harshly now. But if you want to be in my life and in Lucy's, then you need to face what you've done. Do you really want to dive back into this? Because I'm afraid of what shadows may arise. The question hung between us, heavy and laden with unacknowledged grief. After a long beat, Rachel nodded, her resolve visible even through the anguish. Yes, she said, her voice steady now. I have to. It's long overdue. For a beat, I felt a flicker of hope intertwine with anger, a bittersweet mix. Threatening to burst forth. Could rebuilding that connection be worth the risk, the potential devastation yet to unfold in its wake? Lucy pulled at my sleeve gently, her youthful curiosity shining through the confusion, the gentle tug of a child who still believed in heroes, in bonds that could withstand the storm. Can we get ice cream afterwards? All together? Her innocent request felt like a balm for the moment, even if the shadows lingered just beyond the edges of my thoughts. Of course, Rachel murmured, a small smile breaking through her pained expression. Ice cream is always a good idea. But even as a moment of calm settled around us, the knot of anxiety in my stomach tightened. I could still feel Michael's upcoming meeting looming in the distance, a specter that promised uncertainty with each tick of the clock. The ice cream might melt and the laughter might fade, but the questions, the truths, and the expectations were already racing towards us, demanding to be heard. Just as I was grappling with the whirlpool of emotions threatening to pull me under yet again, an unfamiliar yet haunting resonance caught my ear. A woman's voice, raising softly as a child, whispered, "Is that you, Mommy?" In that instant, my heart stilled. I turned my head slowly to where the sound rose. A little girl, wide-eyed and staring right at me, her features strikingly familiar, as if a mirror to all the hopes I had lost. And just like that, as the world slipped into chaos once more, I felt the foundations of my reality shift beneath me once again. Everything spun around me, time slowing as I met the gaze of the little girl, the spitting image of my lost childhood, of dreams I thought were buried alongside the secrets of my past. Her eyes shimmered with the same innocence I had longed to protect in Lucy. "Mommy," she repeated, a fragile tremor threading through her tiny voice that I felt the world disintegrating around me. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, my heart racing. What do you mean?" She took a hesitant step forward, the way children do when they sense the emotional weight in the air, their instincts untainted by the complexities of adulthood. "You're my mommy," she whispered, her face a picture of fragile hope laced with confusion. Rachel shifted beside me, her expression folding into a mix of surprise and guilt as we absorbed the whirlwind surrounding us. I glanced back at Lucy, who played obliviously, lost in her colorful world of ice cream and children's laughter, yet I felt a shadow creeping into the sunlight of our happiness. "What are you talking about?" I felt my voice rise, panic surfacing like frantic waves. "I don't understand. I don't have another daughter." Words failed me. What heart-wrenching impossibility had just emerged from this stranger's mouth? This child, ethereal and light, pulled at the strings of my reality in a way I hadn't anticipated. Rachel's hand found my arm, grounding me in a reality that felt frayed and unyielding. I think it's time you learned the truth," she said slowly, her eyes pleading for understanding. "About everything, your past, your mother, even me." The little girl stood there, her wide eyes radiating a yearning I remembered from the depths of my own childhood, those moments when trust and unconditional love felt infinite, beating against the tide of uncertainty. And yet, here I was, a stranger to her, trapped between two worlds, the one that birthed her and the one that had raised Lucy. "Can we sit?" the little girl asked, her timidness competing with the courage that shone in her gaze. "Please. I want you to know me." Against the chaos swirling within, I nodded. The world seemed noisy but distant as we gathered ourselves on a bench near the park's edge, Lucy still preoccupied with her cone, unbothered by the growing tension beside her. "Your name?" I asked softly, my heart pounding in my ears. "Emma," she responded, her small fingers fumbling with the hem of her dress, her gaze dropping as though she could feel the weight of the world crushing down on her. "Emma," I repeated, testing the name on my tongue. It felt foreign yet achingly familiar, like a ghost haunting the hallways of my memories. "That I was told you didn't want me. That you didn't love me," she said, each word falling like raindrops in a precarious silence. "But I know in my heart I was always yours." I choked back a sob, caught between sorrow and disbelief. I wanted to reach out, to take her tiny hands in mine, but the gravity of the situation held me taut, every detail of my life now turning into shards that could cut deep if I allowed myself to bleed. "Rachel?" I breathed, more as a question than a statement, the reality of familial ties stretching thick and heavy before me. "What is happening?" Did my mother? The fear in my voice lingered like smoke from a fire just long extinguished. "I didn't know how to tell you," Rachel replied, her own eyes misting. "She didn't ever want to hurt you, but there was so much pain. You both carried so much. And in her final attempts to shield you, to protect you, she lost her own grip, the truth fell through, and in darkness came light. Emma is your sister," Emma said softly, the statement hanging in the air like a specter of the truth now unfurling. "You were my mommy. But my other mommy, she tried to take care of me alone." The whirlwind of emotions cracked like glass inside me, shunts of grief and joy colliding. I felt my heart fracture under the weight of everything I had believed to be true about my life, the life I shared with Lucy, the life that felt stable. I had held Lucy's love close like a lifeline, shielding her from the currents of grief and the echoing shadows of the past. But in this moment, I was being asked to swim against the tide, to embrace something unexpected, something once lost, merely holding on to reject the fear of becoming lost once more. I thought I lost you. My voice trembled as I spoke to Emma, overwhelmed with emotions that swirled in shades of love and torment. I believed I had lost you too. As I turned towards Rachel, I caught a glimpse of the pain still etched across her face, showing the legacy of loss, regret, and the burden of unspoken words. And now? I asked, my voice breaking in the shared silence. What do we do now? Now we begin to heal, she said, thick with determination, mirroring the tremor in my heart. Together, because love has always been our greatest strength. Lucy joined us then, her laughter the sweetest reminder of resilience, the soft heartbeat of hope threading its way through our shattered lives. Can I have an ice cream, sister, like me? She chirped, her innocence ringing out like a bell cutting through the fog of uncertainty that barely began to lift. As I watched Emma's face light up at the suggestion, the tentative connection between the three of us began to unfold, woven through shared tastes, laughter, and the bittersweet ache of opportunity where once there had been only loss. Together, I echoed softly, the promise pooling in the depths of my heart. We'll face everything together. And so, as the sun dipped low, casting shadows long and stretching across the folds of our lives, the tapestry of our story began to weave a new one of resilience, of forgiveness, and the unbreakable bonds that showed us how to rise from the rubble of broken pasts. With Emma and Lucy by my side, I knew we could confront the unknown, not as lost souls, but as heroes embracing the light shining through after the storms. And in that moment of clarity, I knew one thing for sure: love would guide us all through the darkness, illuminating the way back to one another. Together, I whispered again, feeling the warmth of their hands in mine, woven together like threads of light in the fabric of life. Always, Mommy, Emma said softly, and as Lucy nodded, joy reflected in their eyes, the promise of a united journey began to echo through my heart, a symphony that no darkness could ever silence. Love would always be our guiding light, and it began anew.